Yeah, thank you, Paul. And it's an early hour, but never too early to get up and to present here, of course. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you everyone for joining. On the next slide is my forward-looking statement. And here you see a few key highlights in terms of Immutep. First of all, we are a company which is focusing on the patient's immune system. We are active in oncology, as well as in autoimmune diseases. In oncology, you would like to have an active immune system, actively fighting cancer. And in autoimmune diseases, you would like to bring it back to the right level of control. And we are actually worldwide leading in terms of LAG-3. It's a specific immune checkpoint, a little trigger in your immune system with which you can up or down modulate your immune system and your immune cells. We have compelling clinical data. So we are an R&D focused company. We have a number of different partnerships with the big industry. And as an industry, as in every industry, I believe it's very important to team up with your customer. And this is what we did numerous times in the past. And I'm optimistic that we can do that also in the future. We do have a global presence. Our headquarters is in Sydney at Australia Square. And then we have subsidiaries in Germany, in France, and in the United States. And of course, in healthcare, in oncology, as well as in autoimmune diseases, you are dealing with a substantial market opportunity. The next slide. You can see our pipeline. So we have 4 core assets and also 1 research program. 2 assets in autoimmune diseases at the bottom. IMP761, the world's first agonist to LAG-3 at preclinical stage. Then we have 2 programs out-licensed, 1 to GlaxoSmithKline, the other 1 to Novartis. So all expenses, all costs are with those parties. We collect milestone payments once milestones are achieved. And later on, if the products would be approved, royalties, so a certain percentage of the revenues. We have then also a research program focusing on anti-LAG-3. And on top of this page, you see eftilagimod alpha, which we run in different clinical trials. I will come more specifically to that in the next minutes. Also together with a big pharmaceutical industry. Only market where eftilagimod is already out-licensed is China to EOC Pharma. On the next slide, you can see the LAG-3 therapeutic landscape. So LAG-3 is an immune checkpoint like PD-1 with Keytruda, the top-selling drug in oncology. And it's a validated checkpoint. So it's not an obscure early-stage scientific concept. It's a validated concept which is FDA approved in terms of a program from Bristol Myers Squibb, and we are actually leading the space. We have more LAG-3 related programs than anyone else. You can see our 4 core programs here symbolized by the 4 different green bubbles. And we are the only LAG-3 pure play. And 3 of our 4 programs are actually unique. The 2 at the bottom, as well as eftilagimod on top of this page. On the next slide, you can see that when you are dealing with oncology, with cancer immunotherapy or immuno-oncology, you deal with a very substantial commercial opportunity. I mentioned already Keytruda. Last year, Keytruda made close to $21 billion annual sales. And you see that the whole class of those programs generated close to 30 billion last year. And also programs called anti-PD-L1, 3 different approved drugs, more than $7 billion annual sales. So it's pretty substantial if you can make a difference. On the next slide, you can see that we have 3 core areas for late-stage clinical development. This is on the one hand side, first-line non-small cell lung cancer. It's a terrible disease. It's the most important cancer indication. It's driving the growth of the pharmaceutical industry. And more importantly, there's, of course, great unmet medical need for the patients. Same applies to first-line head and neck cancer. It's smaller from the opportunity as such, but it's a very, very aggressive disease. And in metastatic breast cancer, this is also one of our late-stage development programs. Of course, it's a large indication, and also there we try to change the treatment landscape for the benefit of the patients. On the next slide, you can see that we had a great year 2022 from a fundamental perspective. You see on the left-hand side a presentation at ASCO, a so-called oral presentation, center stage at the most important clinical oncology conference in the world in Chicago. We have been presenting there again a few weeks ago. And on the right-hand side in November last year at SITC, first time for an Australian biotech or pharma company to have a late-breaking oral presentation and also to be featured in the official media conference of SITC. The data we presented has been from first-line non-small cell lung cancer. And as you can see on the next slide, we have seen really good results. It's a trial called TACTI-002. We run in collaboration with US Merck, a combination of Keytruda plus eftilagimod. We saw long-term durable responses, so a lot of benefit for the patients. We saw responses across the board of the so-called PD-L1 expression. So irrespective if Keytruda is supposed to work suboptimally or not at all, we have been seeing responses, so tumor shrinkage of the patients and the quality of the response. The so-called median duration of response, which you see on the top right-hand side, is very good. So if a patient responds with tumor shrinkage, this response is typically very long-lasting, deep, and durable. And at the bottom left-hand side, you see 25 months interim median overall survival. We press release that about 3.5-4 weeks ago. And it was great to see that improved overall response rate with a high quality of the response translates to very good overall survival for the patients compared to what you would normally expect. So 25 months median overall survival is a very strong figure, and we plan to present more detailed data and updated data at a major medical conference second half of this year. On the next slide, you can see benchmarking versus Keytruda. Pembrolizumab is Keytruda. So you see that we double the response rate. Also in the different categories, we partly even triple it. On the far right-hand side, progression-free survival, we are better with the combination and also in overall survival. So versus historic control, versus a top-selling drug in oncology, we actually do quite well. On the next slide, we have been presenting at ASCO a few weeks ago, final data from second-line head and neck cancer. Again, long-term durable responses. Again, we double the response rate. We see actually a high amount of so-called complete responses, so complete disappearance of the tumor lesions, and a 50% increase of overall survival in the CPS greater equal 1 score, and median duration of response has not been met. So very strong results, and this is the final data for second-line head and neck cancer, combination of Keytruda plus efti. And on the next slide, you can see that we actually test in a randomized trial, which is currently recruiting, trial called TACTI-003 in collaboration with Merck in first-line head and neck cancer, where we have also a fast-track designation from the FDA. We hope to have it fully recruited in July-August timeframe, so in the relatively near term, and then to see top-line results later this year. So it's also an important clinical trial. Next slide. In metastatic breast cancer, we have been showing in the past in a trial called APEC. These data has been published at the ESMO Breast Cancer Conference in May last year, that our immune booster, eftilagimod, indeed leads to an improved immune status if you compare that to controls. We talk here about a double-blind controlled clinical trial, eftilagimod plus chemotherapy here, paclitaxel versus paclitaxel plus placebo, and we see a statistically significant increased number of CD8 T cells, and we were in a position to statistically significantly correlate the improved immune status to better overall survival for the patients. And actually on the box on the bottom left-hand side, you can see that we maintained the quality of life for the patients, especially important in a setting with chemotherapy. On the next slide, we had FDA discussions, 2 FDA discussions, one with EMA in metastatic breast cancer, and we are working and actually recruiting a trial called APEX-003, phase 2/3 clinical trial. We are recruiting the phase 2 part. First patient has been dosed, and we look there to optimize the trial design from APEC and move forward. On the next slide, you can see in autoimmune diseases, IMP761, also a very exciting program, which can address potentially more than 90% of autoimmune diseases. We have been publishing the concept in Journal of Immunology, successfully manufacturing the program in a GMP-compliant way, and we are going through the IND-enabling studies as we speak, and hope to be in the clinic in less than 12 months. On the next slide. Yeah, we have we are coming from a position of strength. We are about to complete actually a capital raise of 80 million Australian dollars, fully underwritten, great institutional demand, great support. So even in more difficult times, we are coming from a position of strength. And we have many milestones ahead in 2023 as well as in 2024. We will see data second half of the year from TACTI-002, TACTI-003, from the other trials which are ongoing, soft tissue sarcoma, and the partnerships we are having from the IND-enabling studies with IMP761. So there's a lot to expect. We are extremely active also in business development. We are very excited by the development, and stay tuned for upcoming news. And with that, I stop here. Back to you, Paul.
Marc, many thanks. As always, lots of questions coming through, Marc, so just try and get through a few of them. You recently announced a US patent for your IMP761. Can you elaborate on this announcement and why you believe this to be a game changer in the autoimmune disease space?
Yeah, first of all, of course, it's always important to protect what you have. So to announce a patent in the most important and biggest market in the world, in the US, is of importance. That IMP761 is addressing the root cause of more than 90% of autoimmune diseases. So if you like, the rogue T cells, our immune system has been getting out of the right balance. And this is related to the chronically LAG-3 activated T cells. I don't want to get too technical, but what we do is to silence those T cells. We don't destroy them. We leave the immune system intact. So we don't have here a symptomatic approach, but a potentially curative approach in many different autoimmune diseases.
That's great. Another one here. When can we expect to hear any news of trial advance with Novartis?
For Novartis, that's of course also a good question. For Novartis as well as GSK, or our diagnostics partnership with LabCorp, often forgotten, we need to refer to the public guidance of those partners. A few comments around Novartis more specifically. We of course noted that there have been many changes at Novartis, so they have been reintegrating the oncology division into the pharmaceutical division. That's about a year ago. They also have been cutting a lot of R&D programs, also in oncology, not our agreement, of course. But the dancing partner, the anti-PD-1 called spartalizumab, has not been delivering. So you have there a combination of anti-LAG-3, LAG-525, which we out-licensed with an anti-PD-1 called spartalizumab, and spartalizumab has not been delivering. They have been licensing a drug from Beijing, another anti-PD-1, so they still bet on the concept, of course. And we do hope to hear more news in the second half of this year and also in the next year Maybe that's a speculative statement. Maybe they change the combination partner. But of course, we do hope for data from the running clinical trials, especially from 2 of those, and for more clinical trials relatively soon.
Thanks, Marc. And just to finish up, how have the partnerships with large pharma companies gone so far? Any potential deals in the pipeline?
That's a good question. So we have a number of ongoing partnerships, of course. Question regarding Novartis, GSK, LabCorp. We have clinical trial collaboration and supply agreements with Merck, Germany, and Pfizer, with Merck, US, and potentially others. And of course, we would like to address a bigger picture. We are very active in business development. We have been delivering great data. We have confidential discussions. Let's see what that leads to. The window of opportunity is definitely open. We are adequately excited, but all boils down to data and the right steps to move forward. And we are working on that.